All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's June 19th, 1834, out on the American frontier. The sun's going down, and a small group of guys are setting up camp for the night. And you can just feel the tension in the air, you know? It's that kind of heavy, loaded silence that feels like it's about to break. And then, just like that, the silence shatters. 5 armed men ride right into their camp. They don't waste any time with pleasantries. They deliver this one chilling threat, a promise of absolute violence. This isn't just some idle warning. This is basically a declaration of war. So, what's going on here? Who are these two groups about to square off on the plains of Missouri? Well, on one side, you have this small, pretty vulnerable camp, and on the other, you have a massive, really angry mob that is dead set on wiping them out. The stage is definitely set for something terrible. And just look at the numbers here. I mean, this is a total mismatch. It was never going to be anything close to a fair fight. The camp is just this small band of men, but the mob, they've pulled together over 300 men from 3 entire counties. The odds are just overwhelmingly, terrifyingly stacked against the smaller group. And make no mistake, this wasn't just some disorganized rabble. Oh no, they had a coordinated, step-by-step plan. They were going to gather all their guys, cross the Missouri River at a very specific spot, meet up at a planned rendezvous point, and then launch the final attack. Their stated goal was, and I quote, utter destruction. But then something happens, something they didn't plan for. The first group, about 40 men, they make it across the river just fine. But when the ferry boat goes back to get more, a sudden squall just whips up out of nowhere. The boat can barely even make it back to shore. It's the first little wrench in their perfectly laid plans. It turns out that little squall was just the opening act, because an entirely new and unexpected force was about to enter this conflict, one that neither side could have ever predicted or controlled. An eyewitness, a guy named Wilford Woodruff, he said that moments before this, the sky was totally clear, not a cloud. Then this small black spot just appears in the northwest, and he says it didn't just grow, it unrolled itself like a scroll, blackening the entire sky. Talk about an ominous start. So as this incredible storm just erupts with unbelievable fury, the leader of the camp, Joseph Smith, he walks into their little makeshift shelter, shakes the water from his hat, and he says this. For him, for his men, this wasn't just a weather event. No, this was an intervention. And what a storm it was. I mean, the accounts from that night sound almost biblical. The wind was so powerful it was literally twisting large trees into flexible little twigs. The lightning was nonstop, the thunder was deafening, and they said the very ground seemed to tremble and quake under their feet, all while this torrential rain and huge hail just pounded down. But here is where the story gets really wild. It's how this one single storm had such incredibly different effects on the two groups, even though they were only a short distance apart. For the mob, the hail was a pitiless pelting that was so bad it broke the stocks of their rifles. But in the camp, almost no hail fell. The lightning actually killed one of the mob's men, but for the camp, it just lit up the night sky so brightly they could see everything clearly. The outcomes just could not have been more different. So when dawn finally breaks, the storm is gone. It's replaced by this kind of eerie calm, but the whole landscape has been completely transformed. And it's only then that the true, lasting impact of that storm becomes crystal clear. Okay, get a load of this. The big fishing river, right? The day before, it was literally ankle deep, a complete non-issue. By the next morning, it was 40 feet deep. 40! It went from a little creek you could just walk across to an impassable, raging torrent, basically overnight. And it wasn't just that one river either. Members of the mob themselves reported that the little fishing river nearby had risen an unbelievable 30 feet in just 30 minutes. The storm had effectively created this massive natural wall between the two groups. So what happened to that whole grand plan for utter destruction? Well, it was quite literally a washout. Their gunpowder was soaked and useless, their horses had bolted in terror during the storm, they were injured and just completely demoralized. The attack was totally over before it even had a chance to start. And this really brings us to the heart of the story, right? The meaning behind it all. A battle was planned, a threat was made, but not a single shot was ever fired. So how did the people on both sides make sense of what happened on that absolutely incredible night? Okay, so the camp, they clearly saw it as divine protection. But what about the mob? The guys who came looking for a fight? The ones who got pelted with hail, had their weapons destroyed, and saw one of their own struck down by lightning. How did they explain it? And here it is. This is the verdict. From the mob themselves. They showed up promising hell, but after that night, their conclusion was pretty simple. If that was the way God fought for their enemies, well, there was no point in even trying. They just packed up and went home. So, in the end, we're left with this question. Was this all just a freak meteorological coincidence that happened to strike at the perfect time with wildly different effects on two groups of people just a mile apart? Or was it something else? Was it, as those in the camp believed, the hand of a protector? That's something to think about.